This is one of the most bizarre chess games I've seen this entire year. Of course Hans Niemann was playing with white. Who else? His opponent was Mateusz Bartel, a 38-year-old Polish grandmaster. It's round 7 of the London Chess Classic and Hans kicks off with e4. Wait till you see how this one unfolds. So we get an Italian. It starts calm enough. We get knight f6, d3, and now h6. Bit of a sideline, not developing this bishop like we most commonly see. Niemann carries on with some normal stuff. He now plows this a-pawn down the board and g6. Black reveals their hand. They're going for some fianchetto action. King's Indian styly. Castles, bishop g7, and we really see black taking the fight to Niemann now. So castles played. Rook e1, how to now proceed. There's options, b6, b5, do a bit of manoeuvring, king h7, look for this later. Well, knight h7 is the move selected here. Looks weird, but clears the way for the f-pawn. Maybe one day you hop this way, and after Niemann goes queen b3, Bartel does not care. He goes king h8, ditches an entire pawn, which Hans takes, just to then go queen f6, hit the bishop, it retreats, and g5. Vamos! Black wants to blow the white player off the board. And Niemann now goes full defensive mode. So he first covers this weak point. We get g4. Of course, the knight can't hop here. Look at that all-powerful black queen. So the knight meekly drops back. h5, look at these bulldozing pawns ploughing down. Knight f1, pawn h4, and queen d1. Niemann backpedaling across the board. Knight e7 now played. Great move, spinning into the attack. Looking for some of this action later on as well. Niemann goes queen d2, looking at these kind of ideas for black, hopping pieces to these squares, whatever they might try and do. And now c6, the computer doesn't love it, wanted to carry on manoeuvring with queen g6, that sort of thing. But okay, black still with pressure. Niemann goes g3, trying to keep things stable on the king side there, clarify the pawn structure, and if captures, pawn recaptures. Who's really attacking who down the h-file later on. So no action was taken on the king side here. The tension remains. d5 was played instead. The bishop dropped back. Bishop e6. Hans now goes knight to g2, pressuring that pawn on the king side. It was defended now with knight to g6. And now here Niemann takes some action in the centre, which looks really risky. Because e4 comes, look at the clamp on this square, look at these horrible knights. I mean, yes, they've got these squares available, but this one's well controlled by black. This bishop's looking a bit dead. Surely this is better for black. Well, look at Niemann's idea. He goes rook a4. Very interesting move. Looking to pivot along the b file and searching later for some c4 action, which then undermines this pawn. So we get pawn h3 now played. Good move. The knight now comes back to e1. You have to be careful. If you went to e3 there, trying to get active, well then knight g5 comes really fast into f3. You can't let it sink its teeth into that one. So queen f7 played. Clears f6 for the bishop. We see rook b4, activating that piece. Rook ac8, black does similar. Bishop c2, eyeing the pawn, again looking for c4 later, and after bishop f6, queen d1 now played to open the bishop on g5. Black now goes in the other direction with the bishop, going all the way to the back rank, but ironed this weakened a5 pawn. So bishop h6 now from Niemann. He targets the rook on f8. If you capture here, well, you can slide, hit the bishop, pick up a tempo, then win an exchange. c4 also coming, powerful idea. So the rook just slid to the right, cha-cha slide. Now c4, the pawn on a5 still attacked. Niemann prepared to ditch it. if black wants to take it, and it is the computer's favourite move. Then the line goes rook a4. I think the bishop takes on e1 now. Yeah, this is what I was clicking at earlier. Queen takes, rook takes. Okay, different ideas. But either way, white remains better because the centre is collapsing and there's no pawn cover in front of this king. Don't forget. But coming back here, this pawn not captured. Instead, we see bishop g5. So going for exchanges, galloping this knight into the game, looking at this square menacingly, and after knight e3 from Niemann, the entire game now explodes. You know, the computer wants to sit solid with queen e7, let white be a little bit better, because Niemann is now a bit better because the centre's collapsing. However, black goes for something crazy, mix up the whole game, knight h4, look at that for a move, just trying to kill Niemann's king. So that sacrifice is now accepted. You know, you couldn't decline it, or otherwise one of the knights lands on f3. So knight f3 check, this is the follow-up move, and you do not take that one. If you do, pawn recaptures with check from this rook, and this one's dropping on e2. So no captures played, king h1 played, and the craziness just continues from Bartel. You know, top engine move here, there's not much in it, is queen f4. But then knight f1 comes, so things aren't exactly breaking through there. White is better because the sacrifice isn't sound. You know, I should make that clear. But this one was played instead, chucking another piece, more fuel on the fire. Sorry, Hans takes in the centre. He doesn't take this one. He could do that. It's playable. And check. And the line goes like this, and g3. Now we see similar things in the game, so we're not going to go too far down here. But white should be able to defend, even though it's very scary. You know, lots of pieces in the defence here. But the knight not taken. We see takes on d5. The computer wants to now recapture that pawn. The silicon overlord sees all. But instead, Bartel goes for g3. Things are really hotting up now. You know, we're low on time for both players. They're coming up to move 40 when they get time back. And there are some tricky lines here. So the bishop was captured. Now you're on the queen as well. But does the queen move? No. We see g2 check, offering another piece. Well, the same one that wasn't previously captured. But if you take that, well, you're literally getting mated because the queen gets made. You come up here, now that's mates using the rook and queen together. So don't touch the knight. Instead, taking the pawn, giving back a piece is the best move. But not them recapturing here. There's so many tactics because now queen f3 comes. That one is pinned, and if queen g1 to defend it, well then there's all sorts of problems. Knight g4 is very strong. How does this line now go? I didn't analyse it fully through. Rook b3, queen takes on e2. You know, you left the rook hanging when you defended the knight. Coming back here, was there anything better than queen g1? Hard to say. That's a mate threat, right? And you have to cover it with something. Oh, bishop e4 is the other move the computer tries, but then queen h3, and there's too many problems with the discovered check. King g1, knight f3. Okay, it's all collapsing, this kind of thing. We won't keep going with the line. Okay, one more move. Queen f1. Ah, yes, then rook c1. Distract the queen, then give the mate. Very complicated stuff, right? I didn't click it all through. But this is the problem right now if you actually try and win that pawn with the knight. So, king g1 played. Now we get queen f4. Big threats in the air once more. Ideas of taking on h4 or knight g4, then setting up queen h2 check. So we see rook takes on e4, very important move, stops all of the takes here, the queen's under fire, and so black plays the only move to drum up chances here, which is queen takes on f2 check. This time the king is forced out of its cubbyhole. A new queen is made. King e2. I mean, how nuts is this game? Just fantastic chess right now, anytime Niemann's at the board. We see knight f1 played, going for these attacking ideas. You know, knight g3 could be on the cards. You're looking at the e3 square with queen and knight. This rook wants to invade soon. What does Hans do here? Well, he plays the second top engine move, queen to c1. ideas of looking down here towards the king, also overprotects this bishop, and now this is where the game just turns insane. Very weird. You can see Hans is completely winning, almost +6. We get rook g2 check. Now that one was not captured by the knight. If you do that, then knight g3 check is the follow-up. And you're also on the queen here. This is the problem. So if you go king d2 to stay with the queen, then you take with check and stuff starts collapsing. You can't even recapture with the bishop, or there's takes here, you know, after a check, that kind of thing. So taking this rook with the knight, not good due to knight g3 check. So king d1 was now played by Niemann. This was one of his ideas as well when he vacated the square with queen c1. And now after black goes for it with rook takes on c2, it forces an error from Hans Niemann. Now the first thing to say is you can't play the obvious, which is knight takes on c2. You now walk into a checkmate in one, a recurring theme in this position. The knight lands there, and look at that. Because it's a double check, the king can't move. That's actually a mate. Really beautiful. So you can't touch the rook with the knight. Now what happens if you take with the queen? Well, that is what Niemann plays. So we'll explore that one in a moment. But what should Niemann have done? Well, e7, second strongest move, but top engine move by miles is +10, right? Huge advantage is check, king g8 and pawn to e7. And this is absolutely crushing. I mean, what to do as black? If you throw in a knight e3 check, the square is just covered by queen and rook. It gets you nowhere. The pawn's going through. If you go for this one, which would be checkmate, if not for the queen, well, the queen slides back, takes, rook takes check, but the king now slides across, and what to do? How to proceed the attack? This one can't check. This one can't check. Sure, you can give up a rook, but we take, and what to say, what to do, there is nothing. The pawn is going through. If queen g6, well, the pawn goes through, you end up a rook ahead. So this was just absolutely the way to go. But Hans has this insane brain fart. He takes with the queen, rook recaptures, and suddenly he is worse here. Black is winning. Now maybe the line he overlooked is this. If you go pawn e7, there's a huge problem. There's a move which leaves black winning, but even outside of that move, which I'll show, knight e3 check actually leads to a position that the computer says is level. Anyway, the amazing move here that black can play is queen g4 check. This is some madness, because if that one captures, look at this, for an Arabian checkmate. I believe that's what it's called. That is absolutely fantastic. So I can understand why Niemann might have missed that move. You know, it's not an easy tactic to spot, easily overlooked in calculations. But even if not queen g4, like I said, knight e3, you're doing a similar thing here. You're forcing the rook to capture, and then you're on the pawn. So it wasn't working in either line. And obviously you can take, but then takes. And anyway, that wasn't played. What we see in the game is knight takes on c2. Niemann realizes he cannot push e7. There are too many problems. Now we get knight e3, double check from queen and knight. So king d2 played, queen f2 check, king d3, and now you don't take with the queen, allow the king to take here, but knight takes is the best move, and white is paralyzed. You know, if you push this pawn, for example, well, we take this rook with check, king goes, and then you start mopping things up. You stop the progress of the pawn. So e7, no good, not working. What happens if you take on b7? Engine's top move. Well, now there's check. You ditch this rook on e4. That's why taking here wasn't best there, by the way, so you don't take with check. Pick up here. And now if e7, supported by the rook, well, the problem is you can check, bring back the queen. Yes, you ditch the knight, but you stop the pawn and you start bringing in the king. That one will soon be rounded up, and this should be winning queen against rook, even though black only has one pawn left. but this would have put up some good resistance. But what we see in the game is d5, and now this rook drops off the board, rook recaptures. Yes, Niemann has some pawns motoring down the board, but queen d6 blockades, and how do you make progress? In marches the king. We're moving towards the climax of the game. How's black's technique? Can they finish it off? We see a few more checks. Soon the king marches in, looking to support the blockade. Don't take too much notice of the evaluation bar. Black stays in control here. That rook bouncing around. More checks. Queen on d6. And eventually Niemann, he just can't hold everything together here. His rook hits the back rank. The queen's now invading. And look at these queenside pawns. They're slowly getting attacked. They drop off the board like flies here, collapsing. Now it's 2-on-2. And after these final moves here, king f5, Niemann resigns. These pawns going nowhere, and these are gonna start marching. What an incredible, bizarre, weird game. I hope you enjoyed. Do hit subscribe to never miss a future video, and for another epic game of chess, check out the video on screen, and thanks very much for watching. See you soon.